Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about township plans. So in this particular township plan, we're using Township 25. I really want to emphasize that you will notice that pretty much I go through these in different parts of these like 3 or 4 times in this semester. So if you're like, I got these down, I don't need to listen to you anymore, that's fine too. This is just to reiterate because reading these is really, really important. So in one video we talked about split line notes, and the split line notes are used to do the survey. They were the field notes of the survey of the township. So here is the actual township, and so they're really taking all of those notes that they took and they're putting them together into one single document for the entire township, which is really fascinating because all of these land features were just like little lines before. So, and like he was just along the boundaries and trying to figure that out and like place these together, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So it's really, really, really fascinating. They didn't have overhead satellites at that time. So I have Township 25, range 24. We're just going to use this one, west of the 4th meridian. We have our scale, which is the scale 40 chains to an inch. This is a written scale. It is not a ratio, so you can't go 40 to 1 because they're two different units. And then we have a scale bar. So the scale bar itself is only if you print your paper like to scale, right? So again, it just gives you a general reference. But if you have to do any kind of math, you want to use this 40 chains to an inch. So in this particular township plan, we see all of these lines here. And the fuzzy lines are the hatching. So, whoops. There we go. So I'm going to use the zoom button to come in. So here's my hatching. And there, I can pull it. And so this is slopes, right? So we actually have a creek bed. So you can actually see that it would make sense that this edge, where it's narrow and it stops in like a really nice straight line, and then it like sprays out at the bottom here. This is actually showing the bottom. You can see that it makes a valley. And then we have Crowfoot Creek that goes right through, and they kind of do little dots as a prediction for that particular creek. We have all of our numbers of each of the sections. Then we can keep going down. It tells us what kind of ground it is all the way through. So it says rolling prairie, broken and hilly, which you can kind of see that with this because you've got all of these different hatchings everywhere. So it is broken. It's kind of got these little cut spots and everything as we go through. So as an overall, like this, you can see, okay, I've got all these like broken little pieces. I can see my landscape. I can see where there are hills, where there's like, where the hills are, where the valleys are, where it's up and down. Perhaps we have like little drumlins that are in here, and that's what's causing those. So we can identify that really quickly. We can also identify water bodies. We can see creeks. We can see little ponds. And lakes are often actually identified with words. But there's more to this than just that. So what we can do at the top here is looking at these numbers. So this one says 39.92. That means that from the corner of the section to the quarter section line, it is 39.92 chains. Okay. Remember that townships get more and more narrow as they go north, right? Remember that? So that is possibly why this is not at 40 chains. These little tick marks that come along the side here, that just means it is exactly the same from here to here. So all of these were 39.92 chains, and then we have 39.93 chains over here. This is that plus minus if you ever buy any kind of land. So 39.95, we go all the way over, 39.95. Notice that it got bigger by 0.03 chains. And then if we go down here, we're getting closer to 40, 39.97 and a half, 39.98. And then we'd be back into the other section, or sorry, township if we go down there. But this is getting pretty close. So I'm betting that if we were to actually check the township along this line, it would be very close to 40. So those are the distances that you're going to see. But there's no angles, and you'll see that there's no angular measurements in the township plan because it is expected that these lines are pointing to the rotational north or the true north. They're azimuths, but they are drawn as a grid, so you may see that they're actually converging if you really took out an accurate ruler and see that it actually converges at the top versus the bottom. And then we have down here, we have all of our information. So here, this one was made in 1983. It was originally surveyed. It got to the Ottawa office in 1886 and was confirmed at that point. It used to be in color. We don't have color anymore, unfortunately. And then it gives you the other measurements that are here. So if you have to identify water bodies on a township plan, something like this is a pond. This is a lake. If it says dry bed, is that a lake? No, it's not. Then there's things like sloughs. So a slough, that's how it's spelled. This is a slough, and so this is identifying also as a slough. So the sloughs, they are little ponds. They're usually highly vegetated, and they're generally shallow. They're kind of like just random high water areas in the prairies. So if you do happen to see them, that's what they are. The one thing that I want to caution you, though, is that if you cannot identify whether it is a single water body or a extra water, or like if there's two, then don't include it. So for example, we have slough. Are these two together or are they separate? So because we don't know, we can't count it as a water body. But we can see that we've got a creek here. Here's Prickly Pear Creek. Here's Prickly Pear Creek. Are those two different things? No, they are the same. So we don't count those as two separate ones. It's a single one. Then we have Crowfoot Creek, which obviously that one is different. Who knows where it went? It may have just might just disappear, and it might be just groundwater coming up in this place. So, but we don't know anything about what's happening in this area. Must have been the surveyor at the time. Dry runs are also not water bodies because they are dry. We can identify hay meadows, so it does that. Dry sloughs, that again means that it's dry, so it's not a water body. So I think that's about all of the information that you need to know on this particular one. Yeah, so when you go through and you're trying to count water bodies, look for something that's been identified as like sloughs. Look for something that's identified as lakes. If it says that it's dry, the lake's dry, or the slough's dry, or a dry run, then it is not a water body. A water body is also creeks and rivers and everything like that. So that's everything you need to know for this, and we will be covering the other types of plans in other videos.